Hey, you guys, and welcome back to another episode of Galactic Explorers with your two favorite channelers, Miss Dallas and myself, Daniella. Welcome to the podcast where we take you through the earthly, everyday, or metaphysical topics and ideas through that galactic perspective. So, we are working new things into our framework all the time. And so, we're going to start out this week with a vibe of the week.
Ooh, yeah. Vibe of the week.
Vibe of the week.
Welcome to Galactic Explorers.
So, welcome to one of our new segments. This is called Vibe of the Week, where we are going to each pull a card from either a tarot or oracle deck that we have to share with you, literally, the vibe of the week. What you may be able to expect, obstacles, ways you might be able to handle things. I can talk. We've had a little bit too much coffee. We've been spending a lot of time brainstorming this morning. It's been good. So,
We are evolving human beings.
So, for this week, the vibe of the week for me is coming from my lovely Wild Offerings Oracle.
Ooh, pretty.
And let's see what they have for us on this side.
Well, shuffle, shuffle, shuffle. Get those cards going. Is that how you shuffle all the time?
Yeah, kind of. Okay, so one of the ones that popped out. Ooh, change.
Of course.
Change. So it literally says, don't scare yourself with the next 40 steps. All you need is that one next action. You can just say, show me the first step and change me into one who can take it.
Ooh, I like it. It's
I
good.
love these oracle cards, short and sweet.
Yeah.
How can that apply to you guys? How does this apply to you? How does change apply to you? Miss Dallas, what do you have?
Okay. I am pulling from my Archangel Oracle cards. This is like an oldie but a goodie deck.
Yes.
Slow shuffling. Ooh. Comforts.
Ooh. That's pretty.
This is Archangel. I cannot talk. Archangel Azrael. I am with you in your time of need, helping your heart to heal.
Nice.
So it kind of goes if you think of like you're changing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Going along with that change, you want comfort to come with you. So I think anytime you make changes, that we sometimes go backwards because it's unfamiliar, it's unknown, it's kind of uncomfortable. So finding that comfort within that change is asking your guides or asking your archangels or whoever you want, or finding something of comfort, right? So a comfort of even an affirmation of, I got this. This is for my highest good. This is going to get me to X, Y, or Z. You know, whatever that comfort is of, I think, reassuring yourself that whatever change you're making is for that highest good. So think
Nice.
comfort is
Yeah.
finding your own new comfort, right? What's a new comfort that you can incorporate with that change?
Right. And it was a good point that the oracle card on this side pointed out too about change and doing new things, taking on new ways of being, even in new habits or whatever, is that so often of the time we scare ourselves into going back to the old way because we overthink it and try to think of what are the next 40 steps that I'm going to have to do to be this new person,
Yeah.
right? To have this new habit. How much is it going to impact our life? There's so much to do, right? When really all you have to focus on is what is that next step? What is that next decision point? Where can you break it down into the moment and let that change happen naturally and
Mm-hmm.
become who you are? Let yourself become one who just naturally takes those actions of change naturally without it being a big ass ordeal. And that
Right.
in and of itself is a comfort because, again, your brain is going to try and send you off on so many different things and tangents of what ifs about that situation, about that thing that you might want to change or work on or redefine, right?
Yeah.
So, by maybe even, like you said, calling on an archangel, calling on the universe, because this is what it says. Just say to love, which in these cards means say to the universe, say to source, God, higher self, right? Show me the first step and change me into one who can take it. So if you want to reach out for that comfort and that advice and that guidance, that's fine. But you can even comfort your own self in your own mind and go, I only need to worry about taking that next step and being the person that can take that next step. Just the one, not all the 40 that you can fucking think of forever in a day that's gonna, that I think that's needed. So that's, yeah,
Yeah.
very interesting.
Yeah. Because you can get lost in the change of I'm going to make this change and this change and this
Mm-hmm.
change, and it's going to go this way. But, and I think we've talked about this before of taking those baby steps when you do change, make those changes or alter things of you got to start with that one step and then just ease yourself into that next step, knowing that it's just going to naturally come to you,
Mm-hmm.
or you make a plan or however, but
It will naturally just happen. Like if it needs to
yeah.
be a plan, the plan will start to formulate on its own. The
Mm-hmm.
people that you need to help you with it will begin to come together.
Mm-hmm.
Like it will start to show itself to you in ways that, yeah, you could then take action on, which is that next step. Like, what is that next step right there in that moment? What is it that you can do? But that's all you need to focus on because, yeah, the rest of it will start to be put right in front of your face for you to do something about.
Yeah.
You don't even have to worry about that shit. Don't
No.
even worry about that shit.
No. Yeah.
Change is okay. Redefining things is okay.
Right. I think I think hold on, the words want to come out. We're creatures of habits. And with
Yep.
that, yeah, so it's just redefining what that new comfort level is for us with those changes that come.
Love it.
Yeah.
There you go.
Great. Vibe.
Vibe of the week. That's your vibe of the week.
Vibe on through there. Just let it flow.
Vibe on through. All right, which kind of does bring us to what we more or less the topic we wanted to bring to you today. Because Dallas brought up something that had happened to her recently, and we were jamming on it, and it really is reflective of a lot of what is going on right now in our outside world of influence in a lot of cases, but you're seeing it happen individually. So you're
Mm-hmm.
seeing a lot of individuals now doing this, but it's an individual thing that's happening, but there's more and more of it. So we're going to get real for a moment and have Dallas share with us that experience and what she was talking about.
All right. Yeah. So
Get real.
getting real with the realisms here. I had a lady approach me, like literally like, hey, I have a question for you.
Right.
Oh, okay. So she brought up a question of kind of age and how she is older, and she's told somebody that is younger, hey, well, you're young. And her question to me was that appropriate, or was that too,
Like
was
demeaning?
that appropriate or demeaning, you know? And I kind of caught me off guard for a second of like, well, how if
Sure.
someone was going to say, ask me a question of that way, and then, oh, well, you're just too young. You don't know, you're young. And it's like, okay, where it was I had to be honest, and the honesty was, yeah, that was kind of off-putting, but also giving her an example of, hey, you could follow up with this or with that,
Mm-hmm.
or,
Mm-hmm.
and so we got into a discussion and we talked about worldly things and what's going on and how her view was and my view was. And it was good to have a conversation, but then she kind of started to get more into fear and into, well, this is this way, it should be, you should look at this way, right? Trying to have me validate what she was saying
Mm-hmm.
to agree with her. And there
Mm-hmm.
were some things I didn't agree with. And it was kind of in the spot of like, okay, I'm talking to a complete stranger. And it was at my workplace. So it's like
Oh, fun.
I had to be professional
Right.
at the same time. So it's like, how do I navigate this conversation? And it was
Mm-hmm.
to the point where luckily her appointment was up and the acupuncturist came in to get her. So I had time to go, well, thank you for this conversation.
Right.
And it's really just drawing the line. And then when she came out, she wanted to talk more. And I was like, I was done with the conversation. I didn't want to engage with it. And I didn't reply back to her. My response was just, thank you for the conversation once again. Have a nice day. And I had to remove myself. And then
Right.
so in finding with the long there, that was the really short version of that
Right.
story.
Yeah.
Was, I had to pay attention to my body and had to go, okay, where am I going to be comfortable in talking about some subjects and not really going down the rabbit hole with somebody and
Mm-hmm.
having my fields full or being, what's the word I want to say? Engage in something I don't really want to engage in anymore. So
Mm-hmm.
it's, that boundary I have pulled up boundaries of myself. And after everything was done, I was like, oh, I really found myself in an uncomfortable spot where I could give a little, but then I go, oh, I could cut it off. And I didn't feel comfortable anymore. And I could go, okay, thanks, bye. Because I paid attention to my body. I paid attention that this isn't really in the highest good of the conversation where we're going to,
Right.
competitive or whatnot, because she's trying to pull me into like, well, right, this is you agree, right? You agree. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
no, I don't agree, but I didn't want to come off of you're wrong 100%.
Right.
I wanted her to like, you know what, you have your opinion and I have mine.
Right.
And that's all it has to be. We can engage in conversation, but not pull each other's energy.
Right.
Fields.
Right.
So
There's an interesting like boundary definement moment for you, like
right.
in action, where like because we've talked about this before, and this is interesting how it kind of dovetails into the whole change thing, is that you didn't used to respond that way because you would have just gone along with the conversation and just said, yep, oh yeah, you're right, you're totally right, yep, and just like gone along with it when she was more or less pressuring you or trying to energy pull you, just so that you kind of keep the peace because like, do you know what I mean? Like you were using different tactics, but ones that weren't really true to you. So you didn't feel good about them, even though you did them. But now you're doing like it was one of those moments where you're like, oh no, I actually can change how
Right.
I respond. Like I can create my boundary. It doesn't
Right.
have to be a personal thing to her, or anything. Like, doesn't even have to be a big deal.
Right.
It's like,
Exactly.
I here have a decision point. It's like, do I keep going the way I've done before and just let her have her energy pull, or do I
Right.
redefine what a boundary is tactfully, which is what you totally did, which is a change point for you. I'm like, major.
Oh, it's a huge one. And especially when you deal with the public,
Mm-hmm.
of navigating through that, where I didn't have to come up with quick responses. I literally was like, well, let me think about that.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. I would stop and I would think before I would even say, before, like, yeah, I'd be like, oh yeah, you're right, you're totally right. Yeah, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, okay, yeah, you're right. Yeah, absolutely. Oh,
Right.
and just okay, have this mindless thing where it's like I don't want to be mindless. And she was asking, and she wanted an honest opinion, and I gave her an honest opinion.
Right.
But then it snowballed into
Into something else. Yep.
so much more, where it was like,
An ego validation.
yeah, and it's like, oh,
Yep.
I don't have to feed that for you, and I'm not going to feed that for you, and I'm going to do it in the most polite way possible,
Tactful way possible. Yeah.
right?
Because
And
there's no reason to go around like smashing and gut checking people like verbally and stuff, because honestly, most of the time that is not going to make them change.
oh no, and then that's the thing too, where it was a great opportunity to see of how I could navigate through that
Mm-hmm.
in a setting like that I was in,
Yeah.
to go, how do I go about this without coming off of, you're wrong, lady, you're crazy.
Right.
you
Yeah.
know, like, because in normal, if someone was just approach me off the street, I would just walk away and not pay any attention to it. Which is also at the same time, that's a new boundary that I have set for myself. Is I do not have to participate in anything if I don't want to and I don't feel it's right. I check in with myself. Oh, nope, this isn't good for me. And
Mm-hmm.
then I just walk away from it. And I can walk away. That's, I think, I have the permission. I've given myself permission to go, nope.
Nope.
So it's redefining that boundary. Even
Yep.
after that conversation, I kind of went through it. How could I still navigate through that?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
It's going to come up again
Sure.
with somebody else, or even with that, probably the same person. And it's like, how
Yeah,
can
she's a
I
repeat
really,
client. Yeah, she'll be back. Yeah.
yeah, how can I really redefine that
Yeah.
boundary of someone having that conversation? Well, I could probably be more blunt and honest of something. Like, it's opportunity to learn and to grow and to
Mm-hmm.
expand, and more of like, how do I pull those boundaries? How do I make that boundary and follow through with that boundary?
Yeah.
Right? Oh, here it comes. Here,
There
because
it is. Yeah. There it
it
is.
came out of nowhere, and I think that's where we get caught off guard, and we go
Mm-hmm.
back to what we've known before because it's simple and
Mm-hmm.
easy. Where
Mm-hmm.
having that new boundary of,
Goes on autopilot instead. Mm-hmm.
with our outside world, if there's so many pulls right now in so many different ways, of like, how are we going to react to that?
Which ones are you going to choose to engage with? You have literally the power to change your mind at any given point
Yeah,
as to
yeah,
which ones that you're going to choose to engage with. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah. So it's just giving
Redefine
your,
your boundary
yeah,
at any time. Like,
yeah.
you have the permission as a grown ass sovereign person to do that. Absolutely.
And you could change it, I think, on the spot.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that was the thing that I loved about when you were sharing that story with me earlier, and why we kind of wanted to bring it up as a topic today, because there are so many things that have been happening to both of us and people we work with and see and do all the rest, that these choice points to redefine our boundaries about certain things, not only with the outside world and how we interact with that, but within our own selves, redefining boundary points of what we're willing to put up with our own selves and how we interact with the world, how, like, all of those interactions have really been stepping forward. And your story really illustrated that point where it's like you can choose in the moment to redefine that boundary,
Hmm.
where you're like, okay,
Right.
I don't need to worry about what's going to happen 1,200 steps down the line, but right now in the moment, I can change what I choose to put up with, what I choose to deal with, what I choose to interact with, what I choose to respond to, how I choose to respond to. Redefine in the
Right.
moment.
Right. And what's great too is that it wasn't just me having an experience, she was having an experience too, where it was outside of herself to even ask that question to
Mhm.
somebody else, of like, hey, like for me, when she asked me that, I was like, wow, she's seeing something within
Mhm.
herself
Right,
differently,
right,
and that to me was like, it's just not me or you
right,
or spiritual
right.
people. It's every single person in this
Everybody is
world
starting to
that is
have this
going
happen to them now. Yep.
great, like
Starting to see
having
the
this
choice points.
different, right, a different thought process, a different perspective, seeing
Mhm.
things in a different way and being able to communicate with somebody
Yep.
in not a combative way, but like, hey, how do I go about this differently? And
Right.
I think, wow, that's amazing. We can have this conversation. Like I'm having this conversation. Like, oh God,
Right.
like
Oh my God, this is happening. Yeah.
right.
Absolutely.
But it was so amazing of like, oh, this is cool because
Mhm.
it's the whole world changing and
Yep.
to give comfort that everybody's going through something right now of change
Very
and how we
similar,
go
even
through
though
it.
the
Yeah,
details are different.
right. And it's all in different, and we've talked about there's different layers for everybody and how
Mhm.
we're going through these different changes. I'm going through so many different, but you are too. But at the same
But the
time,
themes underlying them are so similar. It's so
right. It's
crazy.
it's us evolving as human beings in a
Yep.
collective
Yep.
of creating new boundaries, redefining,
Yep.
right, of how we speak to one another,
Yep.
how we react and engage with one another. So yeah, it's a beautiful thing of how we are evolving
Yep.
and allowing ourselves to evolve
Mhm.
for a higher good of not just ourselves but for each other.
Right. Well said, my friend. Well said. I have nothing more to add to that. She's like, and I'll just drink my coffee like Kermit. It's like, but that ain't none of my business. And we'll cut it there. We'll end it there. That was perfect, honestly. So thank you guys for joining us
Hey,
as we talked about like these different perspectives on boundaries and being able to reform them and have the choice point
yeah,
of redefining how we interact with what our boundaries are with the outside world and ourselves and all of these things. So hopefully that discussion and the idea of it was helpful to you in some way, and even maybe comforting the fact that you are not alone in going through these choice points, and that yes, it is indeed happening to just about everybody on the planet at the moment. So we're about to see a real positive uptake in the reality. So thank you guys for joining us as we're reforming all of this stuff, as we're reforming our podcast and reforming our reality. If you liked it, if it was helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, and all of the wonderful things. Check us out all across our platforms on YouTube, Facebook, Spotify. We have our main hub on Anchor, where if you like, you can share and support and all of the things, donate, stuff, awesomeness. It's growing all over the board. So, we thank you. We're building new things. We're excited to have you on the journey with us. And we will see you next week.